Hello, everyone. Let the lecture begin. My English speaking may be not enough to express the new perspective, but I will do my best. Let me introduce today's lecturer. My name is Casey Gawin, who wrote The Origin of Life. After finishing my bachelor and master degree in psychology at Eastern New Mexico University in USA, I met worldwide known cognitive psychologist Dr. Serso during my doctoral studies at Texas Tech University. At that time, I'd been fascinated by the experimental methods of Dr. Sorso, who claims that human mental processes can be interpreted into mathematical concepts. After exchanging some letters, I became his student. I received my PhD in cognitive psychology at the University of Nevada in 1993. This sentence is the main topic of today's lecture. It looks a bit absurd, but you may change your mind after 30 minutes. Scientists are systematically explaining the processes, saying today's human evolved from bacteria 4 billion years ago. This is truly an amazing achievement of science. 4 billion years ago, Earth's environment provided the material conditions necessary for the advent of living things. However, you have to keep in mind the fact that those were still substances. There had been the final step left to become living things, moving with their own consciousness. Dr. Kay argues that the origin of life existed already in the moment of the Big Bang, long before the first life appeared on Earth. You will hear stories that no one imagined in human history. If you cannot accept this statement, you should abandon modern physics altogether. Because everything modern physics begins from the Big Bang. However, there is a critical defect in this sentence. Let's check it up. Living things like humans and animals exist in this universe. Most of people believe possibility that unknown creatures live in somewhere in other stars. As you know, all living things are composed of a visible matter and invisible mind. You use mind like objects from born to death. You go in and out of mind space every day to get what you need and store the important informations. Warehouse concept will help your understanding. I'll give you a needed information. You have to recognize the fact that the biggest impediment to understanding the universe is brain. That means that brain is not the final place where mental activities take place. Nevertheless, whenever you face with incomprehensible problems about consciousness, you have tried to find answers in the mysteries of brain. But your brain is just a big cellular organism like any other organs. Sometimes I ask people like, do you think mind exists? Most of them say mind exists. Then I ask again, like, where is your mind? They point their heads or brains. Close your eyes and recall a rabbit in your head. You will see a rabbit with long ears and a stubby tail. If then, does it mean the rabbit lives in somewhere inside your brain cell? That makes no sense. No one who has used high tech equipment to look inside the brain has ever seen a rabbit there. Brain cells are merely connectors that pass stimuli from matter space to mind space. We, humanity, has been standing on the edge of a dark cliff for a long time. What this lecturer wants to emphasize is that invisible mind space must be independent like a three-dimensional space we live in now. Surprisingly, the rabbit that you can see with closed eyes exists in this universe. Can you believe it? You will see the reality of this astonishing claim. Physicists claim that everything in this universe began from the Big Bang. You have to focus on the word everything. Everything means literally everything. So, everything has to include not only visible matter, but also invisible mind. Here, mind and consciousness are exchangeable. Therefore, it is contradictory that modern physics does not include mind space. Dr. K argues that it is possible to explore mind space with physical concepts. Ultimately, this lecturer tries to expand the scope of physics. Physicists who are used to dealing with only visible matters omitted invisible mind space. To use an analogy, it is the same as twins were born, but their mother prepared only one set of clothes for them. That was a critical mistake, which is understandable. As a result, modern physics seems to have lost its way. In particular, they are unable to come up with valid explanation for the initial phenomena of the Big Bang. Let's take some examples. Modern physics cannot explain Planck era rapid expansion and the emission of antimatter. Those problems can be solved easily by applying the sequential twin Big Bang theory. Here, twin means qualification of them are equal, and the sequential means certain time interval. In other words, the same Big Bang occurred twice at certain time interval. This picture shows the structure of the sequential twin Big Bang theory. You see another Big Bang is in front of the existing Big Bang. In this picture, the universe began to be created as twin qualification collapsed immediately after the second explosion. The collapse of twin qualification means that what exploded first is converted into invisible mind space, and what exploded later remains visible matter space. However, they are however, mind and matter space are not separated. They are superimposed in parallel state in this universe. In other words, they are expanding at the same rate. The meaning of simultaneous expansion will be presented shortly after. Let me explain the Planck era first. According to the sequential twin Big Bang theory, the Planck era refers to the time interval between first and second explosion. If necessary, please check the Planck era in the previous picture. The time interval between first and second explosion is extremely short. Let me express in numbers how short that moment is. In short, it is impossible to imagine. What does this short time interval mean? Why did the same Big Bang happen twice? The origin of life was hidden right here. This lecturer will apply the concurrency concept in order to explain the meaning of 10 to the power of minus 43 seconds. Concurrency means that although there was time difference in Planck era, the expansion rates of two spaces are completely same after the second explosion. So, you can interpret the extremely short time interval as the boundary between God and creatures. This means that God can recognize the time interval of 10 to the power of minus 43 seconds, but it is impossible for humans who represent all living things. This is the core technology that God uses to create living things made of invisible mind and visible body. Surprisingly, modern physics has already confirmed the concurrency in this universe. Please read this sentence. This sentence is well known in physics. For an example, it has been confirmed that light is consisted of particles and waves. It means that visible matter and invisible mind are expanding at the same rate in this universe. Please read this sentence. By applying the concurrency concept of the sequential twin Big Bang theory, you can easily understand the rapid expansion occurred at the beginning of the Big Bang. This lecturer has many experiences pulling a cart when he was young. It was hard to climb the hills. Sometimes the cart suddenly moved fast. It is impossible. It is possible only as someone pushes the cart from behind. In other words, two energies pulled the cart at the same time. Therefore, the rapid expansion occurred in the beginning of the Big Bang is indirect evidence that there were twin explosions. Lastly, let's talk about antimatter. Here, antimatter can be interpreted as mind or waves because of its invisible characteristic. You have to know that the amount of matter in antimatter were almost equal in the beginning of the Big Bang. Antimatters began to cancel out after the moment of second explosion. Antimatter's disappearance is one of the biggest mysteries since the Big Bang. Therefore, antimatters are invisible to eyes of living things today. In this lecture, you will find a clue as to why antimatter disappeared. The existence of antimatter can be confirmed through experiments using particle accelerators. It strongly suggests that matter layer and antimatter mind layer are expanding at the same rate in this universe. This lecture explained the three mysteries occurred in the initial process of the Big Bang. Evaluation for that is up to you. Now, let's solve the last puzzle. Please read this sentence. How can mind and matter that are expanding simultaneously in this universe become a living things? Dr. K describes the process in detail in his book. Please read this sentence. This lecturer has used the word God several times. Here, God may be a being that transcends human abilities. However, you can consider God as a known super energy. For convenience, this lecturer uses the term God, which is familiar to all of us. This lecturer tries to prove that God or super energy existed before the two Big Bangs. In some countries, firstborn child is called older brother or older sister. On the contrary, in English speaking country, the child born later is called older brother. In this way, parents who determine birth order and their roles inevitably exist. How to define the status of twins and what we call them is not matter of right or wrong, but matter of choice. It seems correct to interpret the situation in which one of twin is chosen to become mind and the other to become body as God's intervention. It is also possible to prove God's intervention in aspect of physics. How can you explain the fact that missions of matter and antimatter were already determined to be opposite nature in the moments of the Big Bang? In conclusion, twins born from the same parents are expanding simultaneously in this universe. Then, after going through certain combination process unopened in public yet, various living things are born now. This is the last question of this lecture. What was God's intention in performing the same Big Bang twice? Creation of life. It is true that A life appeared on Earth about 4 billion years ago, went through long evolution process to reach what they are today. However, you cannot rule out the claim that God's intention to create living things already existed before the two Big Bangs. This lecturer believes that physical evidence of the sequential twin Big Bang theory will be revealed someday. To be more specific, traces of two explosions may remain in the formation of cosmic background radiation. If you accept the sequential twin Big Bang theory, let people know a new concept has emerged. Thank you very much for listening.